Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On this day, Wednesday, November 14, 2012, at 10:30 a.m., a meeting of the Committee on Administration of the Board of Commissioners of the Chicago Park District is being held on the 8th floor room of the Administration Building, located at 541 North Fairbanks. Will the Secretary please take a roll call?
Chair Vice President Armstrong.
Here.
Vice Chair Commissioner Lavelle.
Here.
President Trobert.
Here.
Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Koldyke.
Here.
Quorum is present. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Shalaby, General Superintendent Michael Kelly, and General Counsel Maria Garcia are also in attendance.
This meeting will come to order. Item number 1, from the Inspector General, amendment to Chapter 2 of the Code of the Chicago Park District. Allison Perona?
All right, so
Okay.
I'm not sure what's.
We can take this out of order if you so like.
Let's move on. And
All right, we'll move on and come back to that.
Yes.
Then we'll come back to that.
Go to
We'll
the
go
next
into
one.
item number 2.
Yeah, I move that we skip item 1 and move on to item 2.
All right. Item number 2, from the Director of Risk Management, authorization to modify the contract for automated external defibrillators.
Say that 3 times.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Good morning. Andre Taylor, Director of Risk Management for the Chicago Park District. It's recommended that the General Superintendent and CEO or his designee enter into a modification of the Public Safety Solutions, Inc. contract to increase the not-to-exceed amount by an additional $118,615.93. The reason that we're doing this, if you're not aware, let me just take you back real quick. In 2005, there was a bill that was passed that required fitness centers to have AEDs. So Park District took a proactive approach at that time. And over the next couple of years, we had 65 installed. The biggest piece is training. Whenever there's training involved, you can't just send a memo to the staff. So at the time, we required a minimum of 2 staff per wherever the AED was located. We reassessed it and saw that one day, park supervisor's out, therapeutic rec is out, nobody there to be in charge where if something happens, they could utilize the AED. So we required all staff, whether there's an AED in the facility or not, to be trained. So currently we have 153 AEDs installed at our facility. And just as a side note, we're trying to get them all installed in our A, B, and C facilities. And for the record, we've had 6 saves throughout the Park District. So the AEDs are important, and we are required to have them. And if you save one, we've pretty much done our job.
6 saves over 2 years?
Over 7 years.
7 years. But that's commendable.
That's enough.
That's commendable.
Are there any further comments? Let the record reflect that Commissioner Allen has joined the meeting. We'll take a roll call vote. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Chair Vice President Armstrong.
Here. Aye.
Vice Chair Commissioner Lavelle.
Aye.
President Trobert.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Koldyke. Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
We'll go back to item number 1 from the Inspector General, amendment to Chapter 2 of the Code of Chicago Park District.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am here today to recommend an amendment to Chapter 2 of the Code, specifically the Office of Inspector General Ordinance, to include a new section that will require employees, board members, agents, and contractors to cooperate fully and expeditiously with the Office of Inspector General. Back in May of this year, when the board enacted the charter for the Office of Inspector General, we did include a duty to report for this same group of people in the original ordinance. Going back now over that ordinance and also doing a best practices comparison with other charters for other offices of Inspector General across the nation, I realized that, in fact, we were lacking the duty to cooperate as well. There is a duty to cooperate with employees in investigations already in the Park District Code of Conduct for employees, but to actually integrate it within the Office of Inspector General ordinance will then give greater authority to the Office of Inspector General and also give management needed tools if someone does fail to cooperate.
Allison, when it's written require employees, require or what?
Require, or it will be reported to both board and management that there was somebody failed to cooperate. It will be up then to management to take whatever disciplinary action deemed appropriate, or in the event if it's a contractor and there's something in the contract where the contract could there could be a penalty or termination for failure to comply, then management could take those actions as well. But the failure to comply and to cooperate, or the duty, the failure to report, would always also be reported to the board.
Okay, let me just ask you about that, and maybe to emphasize that a little bit. So if there is an investigation and you have someone who is not cooperative, you will report that to the superintendent. But in case, you'll also, though, report it to the board leadership, or the board.
Yes.
So the board will understand that, not in this scenario, but just say if there was a leader, a superintendent of the Park District that was said, fine, don't cooperate, the board would understand what was going on and be able to get involved. So it's dual reporting.
Absolutely, so, and that's how the cases are too. It's dual reporting, and we have a very proactive management tracking for the responses that goes on too. So board leadership is always aware of where management's at when something is reported to management. Are there any other questions?
How large a problem is this?
I'm sorry.
I said, how large a problem is failure to comply?
We have not had that problem at all. Everybody has complied to date with requests for information or requests for interviews. But again, it's anticipated, and other agencies have experienced that people have refused to cooperate. So this is more of a just in case.
Thank you.
Are there any further comments?
I move to approve the item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Salgado has joined the meeting.
Will the secretary take a roll call for the adoption of the matter?
Yes, sir. Vice Chair, Vice President Armstrong?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Chair, Vice President Armstrong.
Aye.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Lavelle?
Aye.
President Trobert?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Koldyke?
Aye.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 3 from the General Counsel, Omnibus, authorization for the ratification and publication of existing and proposed Chicago Park District policies.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lupe Garcia, General Counsel. What we are recommending today is a series of policies that we have in place at the Park District, and we're asking for your ratification of these policies so that we may then publish them. Not only publish them to the public as a good standard of operation, but also as part of our DPRA evaluation for certification. These policies and procedures have been in existence for many years, and so what we've done is collected all of them and put them in place so that we can use them to operate. We can either go through each of the policies one by one if you'd like, or if you have questions about any specific one, we'd be happy to answer your questions.
On the policy allowing board members to attend certain events, are we going to sign a budget today?
No, what we will do is we will encourage, obviously, board members, if you want to get further professional development as a board member, if you can find opportunities that are pro bono, as sometimes we offer in the law department, that you first select those. If there are other seminars, they will first go to the administration or to the board president, and a decision will be made about whether or not that's a reasonable expense or reasonable cost to make. I mean, obviously, we're not intending this to be a policy to fly commissioners all over the country to Hawaii or other places to attend seminars, but if there is a seminar that would be beneficial to the park district because it gives you certain skills or professional development, then it would be something that would be considered if it's a reasonable expense.
Are there seminars in Hawaii?
You'll be
What
the
time
first
of
one
year?
to know.
I like this policy.
No, I want to emphasize that, what we're doing here is adopting policies that are considered standard among park districts and that is part of our certification process. However, this is one that when we discussed it, there's no precedent here for our board. You guys are all generous volunteers. You receive nothing for doing this, and it's very much appreciated. This is a policy that many people have in place, many districts have in place to encourage continued education and development, but this is not part of the culture and practice here. So one of the things, the language that we had inserted here, was that all of this would, the language is approval and at the discretion of the board president. And so, yes, this policy is in place. Reality as to whether there are going to be any expenses covered for continuing education other than stuff that's available here in Chicago and available online, we'll probably continue to follow exactly what we have been doing, which is basically these funds are theoretically available, but they have not been and probably won't be going forward.
And like, for instance, I think many of you have undergone the Open Meetings Act training. That was something that was offered by the Illinois Attorney General. It was something that you could do at your leisure through the internet, and it didn't cost anything. There's courses like that available, for instance, for FOIA. Our strategic planning process was another good example. So we will certainly search for opportunities such as those that are pro bono, and if you're interested, you're always welcome to attend. Or if there's topics that maybe you think that you would like to undergo or sit through classes, then we will first look for quality pro bono courses or seminars. Any other questions?
We have a member of the public who would like to address the commissioners. Ms. Irma Tranter.
Good morning, Commissioners, President Travert, General Superintendent Mike Kelly. I really want to take this opportunity on behalf of Friends of the Parks to congratulate the Park District for the accreditation that was recently bestowed upon this great district by CAPRA. It was, I think it really signifies a direction of the Park District towards professionalism. I know it took a lot of hard work, all of your strategic planning and all of that you've put in, all the time that you've all put in, you as a board and the staff. It really is cause for celebration, I think. We're here to express our appreciation for all that work. I think you see that reflected in parks, most important thing. And this is a step 2 on this agenda item, adopting these policies formally and then publicizing those for the public to be aware of those is part of that. And again, these documents are outstanding, really detailed, and having those on the web will be helpful too. We thank you for those. I think the environmental policies are comprehensive. Matter of fact, I think after reading these, we at our tiny little organization ought to adopt your guidelines and procedures as well, if we can borrow those. They're very thorough. And the one on the wise use of protection of air, water, soil, and wildlife. You might want to just consider one other one: reduce pollutants in Lake Michigan and the Chicago River. I know that there are line items for reducing vehicle emissions, etc., but something to the effect of reducing pollutants in Lake Michigan, because the Park District is working right now with the Governor's Office, with Friends of the Parks, with the city on a Clean Marinas program that would, with the goal of reducing pollutants in Lake Michigan. So if you can look at that. And the only other one is on the adoption of a policy regarding advanced distribution to board members and the Board of Commissioners. We totally understand that you're putting in a 5-day request on that. Just for the public, if we can advance it a day or so we could get some of the materials. We're still getting them at best on Monday, but Monday was a holiday. We got them on Tuesday. So if you can add another day or so the public can get these documents, that would be helpful too. But congratulations for all your good work. You're really taking strong leadership. We congratulate Mike for his great work.
Thanks, Irma. I just wanted to commend you on your magazine.
Oh, thank you.
How long has it been out, and does it come out quarterly?
This one just came out. We do it quarterly. This one just came out about 10 days ago. We have extra copies. We were pleased to put Erica on, our new commissioner, on there. The last one had Mike Kelly, or one of the last ones. No, I guess it's been over. How long has it been already, Mike? A year. So 2 issues back or something, we had Michael on the front page of that. So shows you the partnerships that we're working with the Park District and the community, and we want to continue that. And I hope you enjoyed which we think will be a helpful tool for our Park Advisory Councils, kind of simplifying where you can find some money in the city to help the Park District accomplish their goals of, restoring playgrounds or buildings. Our staff, Tim Jeffries, is here, who was instrumental in putting that together. We just think it's a simple guide, and pass them out. Get it out so you can get more money into the Park District.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Are there any more questions on any of these policies? If just want to do two rah-rahs for my law department, because we don't always get a chance to tell you good news, and this will be very quick. We won an Illinois Supreme Court case last month that was very important toward immunity, having to do with the natural and unnatural accumulation of snow and ice. And the reason that was a big accomplishment is that was a case that was handled completely in-house by one of our in-house attorneys. And the fact that he was able to argue it to the Illinois Supreme Court was quite an accomplishment to get a good verdict, because it is going to have an impact citywide and even statewide on how municipalities handle natural and unnatural accumulation of ice and snow. The second one was 2 of our in-house attorneys and 1 of our law interns received an award from the Jury Verdict Reporter, which is a large association in Cook County, for a trial that they won where the plaintiff was seeking $4 million, and we received a not guilty. And again, that was handled completely in-house. So not only was it a victory for the law department, but it was also an opportunity to take an intern and give her tremendous training. And now she was able to gain a job outside at a private firm. And she was very grateful for the experience that she got here.
Just say their names for the record.
Sure. George Murdiotis was the attorney who handled the Illinois Supreme Court case. And he was also assisted by the intern, Heather Kyle. The trial was Nelson Brown, who's been with the Park District for many years. Eric Varela, who also springboarded to another job from here. He's now the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs for the County Forest Preserve System. And again, Heather Kyle. So we're not only doing a good job for the Park District, but we're also training our attorneys to be good lawyers and to move on to bigger and better things eventually. I mean, I'm sorry because we are losing some very good lawyers, but I'm also very happy because they are out in the private sector now. Thank you.
Not bigger and better, different.
Thank you. Exactly.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
So, second.
Will the secretary take a roll call for the adoption of the policies?
Yes, sir. The policies that we'll be adopting are as follows. Adoption of a policy regarding advanced distribution of board materials to members of the Board of Commissioners. Adoption of a policy regarding prospective board member candidate information packets. Adoption of a policy regarding board members' attendance at sponsored or endorsed workshops. Adoption of an ADA policy statement. Adoption of a policy for providing comprehensive year-round recreation programs. Adoption of an environmental sustainability policy. Adoption of a policy for the Chicago Park District Board of Commissioners annual written performance review of the General Superintendent and CEO. Adoption of a policy on continuing education and professional certification of employees. A fuel card usage policy. Adoption of a policy containing the communicable disease guidelines. Adoption of a policy containing the Illinois Identity Protection Act. And last, adoption of a policy containing the Movable Soccer Goals Safety Act. Chair Vice President Armstrong.
Aye.
Vice Chair Commissioner Lavelle.
Aye.
President Traubert.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Koldyke.
Aye.
Motion carried, and the policies are adopted.
That concludes the Committee on Administration. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carried, and the Committee of Administration is now adjourned.
On this day, Wednesday, November 14th, 2012, at 10:55 a.m., a meeting of the Committee of Capital Improvements of the Board of the Commissioners Chicago Park District being held in the 8th floor boardroom of the Administration Building at 541 North Fairbanks. Will the Secretary please take a roll call?
Chair Commissioner Koldyke.
Here.
Vice Chair Commissioner Salgado.
Here.
Commissioner Shalaby.
Here.
Commissioner Lavelle.
Here.
President Trobert.
Here.
Quorum is present. Let the record reflect that Vice President Armstrong and Commissioner Allen, General Superintendent Michael Kelly, and General Counsel Maria Garcia are also in attendance.
Meeting will please come to order. Item number 1 from the First Deputy General Counsel and Legislative Director, authorization to renew 13 leases for various parks with the City of Chicago Department of Water Management. Tim?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. President Trauber, Superintendent Kelly, Timothy King, and I'm here to ask you today to consider granting the authority for the Park District, the administration, to renew 13 different leases comprising 122 acres with the City Department of Water Management. These are all properties that we currently operate as parks and were originally granted to us in the 1957 Chicago Park District City of Chicago Exchange of Functions Act. As you can see on the overhead, the leases are scattered throughout the Chicago area. This is merely legal housekeeping. Some of these leases have expired over the years, and we just need to kind of re-up the agreements with the city. What the key portion to the lease that you should know as commissioners are, we have asked over the years to have these properties permanently granted over to us, but they cannot be, and the reason is because the water department has used these properties in their bonding. So that's why we do a lease, and in a lot of ways, from an operational maintenance point of view, a lease is preferable to ownership because it allows us to maintain surface level responsibility and operational responsibility while having the water department as underlying landlord responsible for all the infrastructure underneath the surface level in the case of a catastrophic water line or utility failure. They would be responsible. Let's just walk really quickly. You'll know most of the 13 sites because, as I said, we've been operating these as parks for many years. There's Belfast in the 30th Ward, Block Park in the 34th, Clarendon, certainly a big one in the 46th, 24th Ward, Clark Park, and on. Grosse Park in the 40th. So they're scattered throughout the city. They make up 122 acres and a large part of what we do throughout the city. Leon Beach, Murray Park, Rainbow Beach, Seneca Woodhall. Any questions?
I just have a question,
Yes,
Tim.
sir.
Since we lease these, are these considered part of our ownership of parks when we talk about acreage?
Absolutely, great question. We do count it in our portfolio, a lease, use and occupancy, certainly title. I mean, all of those are included in our 8,000 plus acres. And I think we've, since Superintendent Kelly's been in charge, I think we've acquired somewhere near about 400 or so acres.
And what we're being asked to vote on is for another 25 years?
25-year lease, right.
Tim, did you mention what we pay for these leases?
Nominal, it's $10 annually.
For all of them?
So it's you include it in the lease to show consideration, but it's,
Right.
yeah, it's nominal amount. I don't know if the $10 actually exchanged hands.
Any questions?
I would move to approve. Second.
Will the Secretary please take a roll call for the approval of the matter?
Chair Commissioner Koldyke.
Aye.
Vice Chair Commissioner Salgado.
Aye.
Commissioner Shalaby.
Aye.
Commissioner Lavelle.
Aye.
President Trobert.
Aye.
Motion carried, and the matter is adopted.
Item 2, from First Deputy Director, Counsel, and Legislative Director, authority to enter into a lease or intergovernmental agreement with the City of Chicago Department of Transportation for a new park. Tim?
Thank you, Commissioners. This park in question is another lease. It's located at 500 South Franklin. It's known as the Wacker Congress Interchange, and there's an overhead of what it looks like. It's a fully developed park. The underlying property is owned by IDOT. It's leased from IDOT to CDOT, and then we would be a sub-lessee of CDOT. We are taking the park subject to its already being named. It's commonly known as Oscar D'Angelo Park. Obviously, that is atypical. In accordance with our code, we have other rules and regs for naming, as you all know, but this is a property that we are taking subject to the naming. It is a 20-year lease. It's fully developed. Rob Raymond will come up in a second and kind of walk you through some of the amenities that have been built out. But the interesting thing or the important thing for the board members to note here is that we will not enter into the lease agreement until we get an underlying maintenance agreement buttoned down with the grantor, and we think we're close to doing that. But what that maintenance agreement will allow for is a dollar amount to be set aside annually for the purposes of offsetting any maintenance responsibility. There will be maintenance responsibility for the park district, cutting grass, trimming trees, the basic stuff that we do consistent with all other parks. But we have also asked for a separate maintenance stipend to be segregated so we can offset some of the plantings and some of the landscaping that's been provided here.
So it would be IDOT that you're seeking to have the maintenance agreement with?
It's actually the private donor or the private development. There's a group of private business owners that have kind of adopted this park, led by Mr. D'Angelo, who have set aside some funding and raised some funds for it.
Okay.
And CDOT is working with them through IDOT, the underlying owner, to get that dollar amount buttoned down.
Okay.
So what is the dollar amount estimated to be to maintain this park on an annual basis?
It varies between $40,000 and there's been estimates as high as about $100,000. But that's all in, and that doesn't include the normal maintenance and operations that we would provide at a location similar in scope and size.
Okay, so we're giving you authorization to enter into a lease or intergovernmental agreement. You are going to negotiate some, but an unknown contribution, somewhere between, I assume, $0 and $50,000, if that's estimated what it costs.
We've already had about $25,000 or $30,000 annually committed to us, and we think if we sign that, if we button that down today, that would be on the table. So we have minimally $25,000 annually.
Okay, so will you come back and let us,
Sure.
we're giving you
Sure.
ability to do this.
Right.
If the negotiations don't go well and it's $0, that should be transparent and we should know that. So, because we're giving you this authority to negotiate.
Absolutely, and if that were the case, we wouldn't enter into a lease.
Does that mean that your floor in negotiations is 25,000?
Correct. That's the number that's been presented to us right now.
And do we think that's even close to sufficient?
Estimates go up to about 80,000, and like I said, that's all in. That includes the normal scope of duties that we would provide at another park, similarly situated, size, location, scope. So there's a certain amount of maintenance that we would provide normally in our normal course of operations that it's just fair to factor into.
I mean,
certainly we can't just expect the private operator to fully maintain the entire site. So we're willing to,
On some level, this is a great story. We're getting additional green space.
Absolutely.
And like all the additional green space we get, guess what? We have to maintain it.
Sure.
But there's an opportunity here to get a contribution for that. It's just that since you're here asking for that approval, representing that, that's what you're going to get, at some point we need to know how all that went.
Sure. The thought process here was we're taking it subject to the name, and certainly there's a dollar value that's important to the community has placed a importance on naming this in honor of somebody. So we have also asked for, there was an opportunity for us to ask for a stipend for landscape. We used that opportunity to try to offset some of the costs.
Right, because the bottom line is when you talk about maintenance and expenses, a lot of that goes to your annual plantings. And if the naming in the community, and they want a lot of wow factor, because this is going to be a jewel on the south end of the Wacker Drive, then that costs more. The Park District is certainly not going to go above and beyond and put exceeding dollar amounts into this park as opposed to any other park in our district. So I'm optimistic that the community is going to raise a significant amount of money to maintain this site. And for the record, we will bring this back informationally before we enter into the lease. Fair enough?
Fair enough. And Rob's here to talk a little bit about the wow factor that the superintendent mentioned.
Thank you, Rob Raymond. I'll just quickly walk you through the plan. I'm going to flip back to the previous slide just to show you that currently the park, there are two loops that come through that cut off the majority of the park from public access. Really, you're crossing a lot of streets to get to these locations. And what you'll see in this plan is there's just a couple little stub spurs along Congress that are now being covered by park. So this is what exists. This is what exists versus the full loop through. So what that provides for is sidewalk access to the majority of the parks, and then the parcel just to the west here is connected underground or underneath Congress Parkway, and this is a dog-friendly area. So the parks to the east of Franklin are developed to be passive areas, but there is an elevated level of landscape with some sloped plantings and shrubs, flowers, and annuals, but some significant open lawn areas. And again, I think from the beginning, as we worked with CDOT and IDOT to talk about these plans, we talked about scaling back larger areas that are more simple, straightforward maintenance. We've always represented that we would be in for only our typical maintenance, and then again, anything above and beyond, we'd be looking to the groups that Oscar D'Angelo is working with, as well as CDOT, who does have crews for maintenance, including forestry and other annuals, that if they wanted to work with CDOT, they could also then provide for additional elevated level of landscape maintenance.
You're planting trees too, right?
Yes.
So just, that area, you think, God,
Yeah.
how do we get there?
Okay.
So are there's a good, your estimate is there's a good population in that area that will have access to this, and this will be an actively used park rather than just a passive green space that everyone gets to drive by and look at.
Right. I think because it's now connected along Franklin Street, it's a continuous sidewalk that crosses just, past Van Buren like any other city sidewalk. The access to this property is now, it's heightened. So basically, by covering up those roadways and providing a park spanning over, you've really activated a portion of that neighborhood that was otherwise completely unused.
Any other discussion?
None. Move to approve?
Second.
If no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item 3 from the Director of Planning, Construction Facilities, authorization to enter into change order number 3 for the Clark Park Boathouse. Rob?
Thank you. Rob Raymond, Director of Planning, Construction Facilities. It is recommended that an order be entered authorizing a design change order number 3 to Studio Gang Architects in the amount of $284,925. The new contract amount would therefore be $906,765 with 25.1% minority and 62.4% women-owned participation. The total design contract, inclusive of survey, soil borings, river edge stabilization, permitting, aquatic design, lead commissioning, and construction administration, is below 10% of construction cost. Again, this is Richard Clark Park at 3400 North Rockwell Avenue. The overall acres are 19.56, 47th Ward. This is the site as it exists. Again, a large portion of the park is along the river. The southern portion along the river is currently wooded and used as a BMX area. The north part is just a passive green space. And then east of Rockwell is a site that's currently being used as staging for the construction of or will be used as staging for the construction of the Cubs Field. Now, we've been working with the community over the last few months as the boathouse has been developed. We've been working with the community about other ideas for ongoing development of the park. You can see here that where the building is located, occupying about 2% of the overall park by the building footprint here. Again, passive space to the north, woods to the south, and then east of Rockwell, the community is interested in developing some more active recreation that would go just north of the Cubs Field, which will be developed soon. This is a rendering of the actual boathouse. Now, just to give some history on this, at the time of the award, the Clark Park Boathouse was intended to be a 3-season kayak and canoe storage building with additional park office space for a total square footage of 3,200 square feet. Now, during the design development process and after working with the rowing community and assessing community needs, really understanding this site as it relates to the overall river and its development and public access to the river, it was determined that a rowing facility was required on the North Branch. The revised Clark Park Boathouse design has increased in scope to include an indoor rowing tank for both sweep and scull rowing, storage for approximately 48 rowing shells interior and an additional 6 rowing shells exterior, fitness community room, as well as a 4-season building including geothermal heating and cooling, and a second story including an elevator and outdoor terrace area. The new facility has a combined square footage of 22,620 square feet over the original design intent of 3,200 square feet. This is a picture of where we're at today. So we are well into construction. We're awaiting a big delivery of steel, after which point the building's going to spring to life, and that's coming soon. It should be noted that we have some private partners already at the table contributing to this project. $2 million from WMS, which is a company directly across the river, $1 million from North Park University, who will be one of the partners at the table using this facility, and another $500,000 from Lincoln Park Juniors, which has been a great partner with us. They are one of the organizations that really reach out, put kids first, and are working with both elementary and high school kids all around the city to help bring them to the river, provide recreational access, and activate this part of the river. So I can take any questions.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we then vis-a-vis where we thought we were going to be in terms of budgeted cost? Because I'm presuming we didn't have $300,000 just sitting around.
Well, let me think about how to answer that. The scope of the project, again, was much smaller when we first started the project. And we knew when we started this, given that it was part of an overall effort of 4 locations, that scope may change. So this site, it's part of a budget that's being raised for four boathouses in conjunction with the mayor's office and fundraisers. So this fits within an overall scheme for fundraising. So again, balancing the needs of the community and access to the river, that's where this project sort of shaped together. So we've been working with an overall budget that we've been, again, working with the community on, and I think there was no way to know really at the start of this exactly where each of the 4 locations were going to shake out. Again, we have 28th and Eleanor, which is one on the south side. We have Pingtown, which is in construction in Chinatown, and there's another project that's fully designed at River Park. So this is just one piece of that puzzle.
Hey, Rob, when there is a change in the scope, and I know this wasn't foreseen or anticipated, the amount that was arrived at, is there a bidding process, or do you just go with the contractor that's already there and try to come up with the number?
For design, we went with the designer on board, and again, I think in terms of overall percentage of design cost versus construction cost, we're well within industry standard. We've been holding the line on cost, and I think we're getting a good deal, especially given the fact that this has got a core permitting process, and it includes river edge stabilization as well as the design of an indoor rowing tank that very few people have experience doing. So Studio Gang has been a good partner in this and sort of doing a lot of extra work. I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing this at cost at this point. But in terms of construction, it was an open bidding process. So through a pre-qualified contractor pool that we were able to interview and help to try to find some seat throughout the process.
And Rob, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Rob, this is it. I mean, you're now have confidence that we won't have any further change orders.
We don't see any other additional design changes coming. We're
And-
far enough along at this point that this should be it.
And that's very important. Appreciate that question being asked. The other thing, Rob, that just point out is that, when this is for architectural services, and what we did was checked many other city agencies, PVC, to see that we were in line or better than what is typically paid for these things. And in addition, you did not, the initial bill that you got, then you went back and negotiated hard, and this is significantly reduced from what the initial bill was, which was in line with a reasonable percentage for this project, but you did negotiate this way down.
We did negotiate this down from the original, or from the proposed change order. And, and I appreciate the comments too. We don't have a separate contract for construction administration or any other owner's rep services or other outside soft costs. So in terms of percentage of soft cost to construction cost, as usual, I think this is falling in line with a really efficiently run project.
Any other discussion? A motion, please.
Motion to approve?
Second.
If no objection, we'll play last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item 5, last item, from the Director of Planning, Construction Facilities, authorization to enter into a contract for design and engineering services
Oh,
to
it's-
park.
Sorry, item 4?
Oh, sorry. Not the last.
Not the last item.
Item number 4, for the Director of Planning, Construction Facilities, authorization to enter into change order number 1, as opposed to 3, for Bloomingdale Park, number 572.
Again, for the record, Rob Raymond, here to recommend that a change order be approved for additional design services for the Bloomingdale Trail. The vendor is Collins Engineering. There are no previous change orders. The amount of the change order is $1,228,221.69 for a new contract amount of $5,160,484.92. This represents less than 9% of the anticipated construction budget, which is well within, if not below, I believe, industry standard for a project with substantial legal work and IDOT review processes. Again, the Bloomingdale is at 1800 North, and this project runs along Bloomingdale from Ridgeway Avenue to Ashland Avenue. It's about 13 acres. It runs through the 1st, 26th, 32nd, and 35th wards in Humboldt Park, Logan Square, and Westtown. The minority and women-owned participation for the contract include 26.1% minority-owned and 11.6% women-owned. Again, note that it should be noted that $490,000 of this change order is for legal services related to surveys, encroachments, easements, and acquisitions. You can see from the number of sites that it run past that this is a relatively complex project. It's almost 3 miles long with many adjacent and encroaching properties. Additional engineering and landscape architectural design services are needed in order to design a new pedestrian bridge at Walsh Park, additional ground level ADA improvements at over 96 locations, an intense art integration program, and other enhanced landscape design features. The consultants will provide drawings, specifications, details, and plans, as well as construction administration. This change has been reviewed and approved by CDOT, DHED, our Department of Housing and Urban Development, the City Law Department, Trust for Public Land, and the Park District. The entire cost of this change order will be paid for by the Trust for Public Land. The Bloomingdale is a new project that will transform a piece of the Chicago's industrial heritage into an actively used recreational greenway. The conversion of the 2.67-mile underutilized freight railroad embankment along Bloomingdale Avenue will provide an elevated multi-use linear park and trail connecting to the new and existing parks, and will serve the greater Humboldt, Logan, Westtown, and community areas. And this is a rendering of the western trailhead at Ridgeway. This is a slide showing a new lighter weight bridge at Milwaukee Avenue with the grand stair. And in addition to the park and multi-use trail, the project does include rehabilitation of 38 viaduct structures, replacement of 2 viaduct structures, repair to 37 embankment segments, and design of 2 new parks, Walsh Park expansion and Kimball Avenue Park. 5 of the 13 access points will be built on graded embankments located in existing or new parks adjacent to the railroad embankment, and the remainder will be ramps located within the public right-of-way adjacent to the embankment. This is just a photo showing of the park, in an area where you have separation between bike traffic and slower-moving pedestrian traffic, also indicating the level of planting that would occur over time as it grows in. The shot in the winter time, it will be actively used during the winter. And this is a shot I like to show because this is the before shot. This is the trade yard just north of Walsh Park, and this is what this will be converted to after. Looking in the exact same direction southeast, it's removing the railroad embankment, placing a new lightweight bridge that touches down on the east end of the park. It comes down through a skate park and sort of plaza area that can be used for community events, and it connects through to Walsh Park to the south, really opening up the park, providing better access and security. Be a great place for things like movies in the parks and other active recreation. We're handing over the project to CDOT for bidding in December, and Phase 1 construction will begin spring 2013 and be complete by fall of 2014. And there will be other phases to follow, including a lot of the arts integration sites. And if there's any questions, I can take those.
Rob, just to be clear, even though we do have to approve the change order, there's no capital coming from Park District for this change.
No, and that's why it was reviewed so carefully by other agencies and by TPL, because the funds are coming from outside funding sources.
And as I've done in the past, I remind the commissioners that my wife is director of TPL, who's our partner with in the project. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I just one other quick comment. I talked to Beth White at TPL yesterday, and she said that they had done extensive due diligence on this. They have to raise the money and pay for it, and that they're quite comfortable with it. So I just wanted to add that.
So we're not paying for any of this. I move to accept.
Second.
If no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter. Now, item 5.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
From the Director of Planning Construction Facilities, authorization to enter in the contract for design and engineering services for Park 574.
Thank you, Rob Raymond, Director of Planning Construction Facilities. It's recommended that an order be entered authorizing a contract with Site Design Group Limited for design of Park 574. It's located at 2550 West Jackson Boulevard. It's 2.3 acres in the central region in the 2nd Ward in the East Garfield Park community area. The contract amount is not to exceed $230,599. The minority and women-owned participation for the contract includes 68% minority-owned, 18% women-owned. This project consists of the developing of approximately 2.1 acres, and this is a new park that's part of a land exchange with the Chicago Housing Authority that was previously approved by the board on August 13th of 2008. This is a preliminary master plan slide from CHA that just shows the general location of the park here, with housing to the south and to the north within this red area.
What was here?
There's a lot of vacant property that CHA has accumulated, and they've gotten some that's on this area. You can see they've begun development to the south of some housing units, and a little bit you can see on the north as well. The area in yellow indicates the new park, and there's some roadway work that will happen that will actually go around the entire park. And there are 2 parcels currently Sane Park owned by the Park District, and then a piece of CPS property that CHA is going to be putting as a different portion of their overall development plan. And what this does is, by relinquishing Sane Park, we get this much larger consolidated park at Jackson. And to the west, you'll see the railroad embankment. This is just a conceptual plan that we put together. We still have to go through a community design process, obviously, but this just shows what the park could include, which would be new playground equipment, rubberized soft surfacing, spray feature, fencing, pathways, walking trail, landscape, and utilities. The new playground is intended to be a state-of-the-art flagship playground that will serve the local community, but also be a destination for the larger area. The site is enrolled in the site remediation program and will obtain an NFR or no further remediation designation. And both the design and construction, remediation and oversight will be paid for with open space impact fees. The total project budget is $2,250,000, so there are no Park District capital funds associated with the job.
Rob, what's the large structure in the center of the green space? What is that?
Like that's a current housing development. I think it may be a senior housing. I can't recall. I believe it is.
Any other questions? A motion, please.
So moved.
Second. If no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
That concludes the Committee on Capital Improvements. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. The Committee on Capital Improvements is now adjourned.
Alrighty then.